Today, we are going to talk about action. I feel like this month is all about action, taking action, and releasing your masterpieces. And I want to take this conversation further because inside of our community, we often do co working sessions. I think it's a good way for us to kind of hold each other accountable. At the same time, open up about what we are working on and just like having those back and forth conversations. And in a recent co-working session, I was having a conversation with someone, with an INFJ entrepreneur, and she was telling me how she fears taking an action to really put herself out there and promote her business because she's worried about what happens when she does that. And I could very much relate to that experience because sometimes when we envision an action, it's not really the action that we are fearing or we are procrastinating on, even though that can happen. But the deeper cause behind procrastination is because we fear that somehow we cannot handle the outcome. For example, when I started my video journey in 2016, I imagined that whatever I'm putting out there has to be perfect because everyone's gonna see this, and I cannot put anything that is like imperfect out there because people are gonna mock me, I'm gonna have bad comments. And in my head, I was making that action and like the impact of that release this massive thing. And what I had to realize is that that didn't happen. I didn't become a viral hit overnight, and my video didn't get more views than a couple hundred. So what ended up happening is nothing. And the way I like to envision, and I want you to envision success and building your dream business and your dream life as a consequence, is I want you to think about a mountain, okay? And what I want you to envision that you are building a mountain with every single action. Okay, so what you're doing is you're grabbing pieces of rocks and you're running and then putting it to then form a mountain. And every single action and every single video, every single email, every single thing that you put out there is almost like you're carrying a rock towards a mountain, and until it becomes this fucking Mount Everest, right? But you don't see the Mount Everest. You just see that you're putting like stones, and you're stacking them on top of each other. And then when you zoom out and you look back on all the actions that you're doing, now it looks like a mountain, right? But when we are building it, it doesn't look like a mountain. It just looks like pile of stones, right? And then somehow it's forming, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's kind of how I want you to envision these actions, because there is this perceived fear that, oh, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna blow up and I can't handle whatever comes in my way, or I can't handle the amount of clients, I'm not good enough, like who am I, right? So I don't want you to think of that. I want you to have the humility that it takes to put those rocks, because I'm telling you that just because you put one rock there, it's not going to be a mountain right away. There's no way you put a rock down and it's going to form a mountain. You would have to go again and again and again and again and again, and then maybe for years until it becomes a mountain. And you only see it if you're like, oh, that's a nice mountain I built there, right? So every single action is like that. So it doesn't mean that, first of all, it means that one action will not make or break your business. Sometimes years of actions, they don't make or break. And it sometimes when we are in the process, it doesn't even look like we're going anywhere. But we are putting that mountain. We are putting that piece of rock. We are putting that piece of rock. We're going back for more. We're going back for more. And then suddenly it will become a mountain. And I see this especially with artists. There is a singer. She's actually Canadian. Her name is Charlotte Cardin. And she was very famous in Montreal, okay? And she was saying like, well, I became this sensation in Montreal as a singer. And I went to this talent show and everyone knew who I was in Montreal. But I wanted more people to know who I am. So I went to France and she moved to France. She's now in France. And she said it was so humbling to go back to almost zero where no one knew who I was. And I would have to have the humility to go at venues and do gigs and shows until people listened to my music again and learned who I was. And I built this audience and more listeners, and now friends know who I am. And I have friends and most part of Europe, and I'm building, almost like taking over slowly by slowly, but it doesn't ever stop. The building doesn't stop. It can be a mountain, but it always becomes this building. The building doesn't really stop, because there always be challenges. There always be more rocks to put. It's an evolution over a lifetime. And I think the more I speak to entrepreneurs who are after, sometimes financial goals, and it should be a whole nother video, but after goals that they think it's gonna change their lives. Like, once I get there, it's gonna be different. I'm gonna have this freedom. I'm gonna have this and whatever. And the more successful people I talk to and the more successful I become, the more I realize it's really not about the accomplishments. It's for me, and I think for most INFJs, it's not about the money either, because I think creatives like us, we use money as a tool. Like, it's good to have it, but it's not something like we are thriving towards. Like, for us, it's a tool to fuel other things. Like, it's either it's a lifestyle or something that goes beyond us. That's how we like to think about money. We're not really money oriented, money motivated people. We just want to create our impact on our own way. And what really this whole thing is just you getting better, you overcoming yourself, you getting braver, and then doing things you never thought you would be able to do, showing up for yourself, being courageous. And when you look back to your life and you're in your dying bed, you can think back to your life and think, wow, I really, really tried my best. And I think most INFJs, if you can get to the point where you can say that about yourself, like, I really tried. I didn't shy away from challenges. I was brave. I was overcoming myself. I didn't let my fear stop me. I didn't let my doubts stop me. I was really, really trying to build something that I was proud of. And even though I know this is a process, it's an evolution over a lifetime, this never stops, I can die knowing that at least I tried my best. So I'm not going to sit there or lie in my dying bed with regret that, wow, like, I wasted so much time. Because that used to be me. Like, guys, the amount of series I watched is insane. The amount of time I wasted, or the amount of times when I felt like, wow, like, I really have no control over my life. I'm just wasting away, whether it's a job, or for me it was studying, because I studied law for so long, right? And I never actually did anything in law. Like, I never worked a day in my life in that profession. It's so funny. But I think for us, it's that learning to appreciate the journey, the actions, the stones, and not putting so much emphasis on that single action. It's just going to be one piece of the puzzle, and honestly, people don't care as much as you think they do. It's okay that you care, but they don't care as much as you do. So I don't want you guys to stop yourself from putting the post, putting the thing, taking the action, sending the email, sending whatever it for you, making the phone call, you know who to call. I don't want you guys to overthink those steps, because ultimately, those are just one piece of rock to your mega mountain that you're building. So the more you get into the habit of, this is a stone, I'm putting it there, and I'm subscribing myself to that. That's going to be always me carrying a stone. You understand it's not that scary to put those stones there, right? There'll always be something that's stretching you, but I don't want you to overthink. Like, oh my God, this is gonna change my life. And it might. That thing, that one thing that might actually do that for you, but I don't want you to overthink those steps, because like you think like, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm doing everything but not that. That I'm not doing. You know? I don't want you guys to think that way, because you overthink the outcome. You don't even know the outcome. So I really hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, listening. If you're not in our INFJ community, go ahead and join us. It's a free Facebook group. And don't forget, courage over fear, progress over perfection.